Hi everyone. Today I'm going to introduce to you what is perhaps the most influential model for teams during the past several years. The Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. By the end of this video, you'll have a grasp on how to lead and improve any team that you're a part of. One of a leader's most important responsibilities is to create an environment. Someone wise said that being a leader is not just about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. More than being responsible for results, you are responsible for the people who get the results. If you get the environment right, you will get the results right. Now, this framework, the Five Dysfunctions of a Team, is a model. And as the following adage says, by George Fox, the statistician, he says, all models are wrong, but some are useful. What's he saying here? No model can perfectly depict the real world, but they're helpful when they give us a bird's eye view of a normally difficult to understand problem. So let's dive into this model, the Five Dysfunctions of a Team. This model is about creating an environment that encourages 5 distinct behaviors. This model is simple without being simplistic. It's easy to understand and it's easy to remember. But if you think it's difficult to remember, you should try chasing cats at random. Yes, try chasing cats at random, but I'll tell you more about that later. Yes, and like so many things in the leader development literature, the Five Dysfunctions of a Team is a pyramid. Yes, we've seen so many pyramids in our time. This one also is a pyramid. Sorry about that. Now, the following observation is not Lencioni's, but I think it's something that we found that this pyramid can easily be divided into 2 parts. The 2 parts being safety and rigor. And these are safety and rigor is almost like safety is like a family and rigor is like a business. We often ask members of a team, is your team like a family or is it like a business? And different people will answer in different ways. But we found that the best teams are like family businesses, both safe and rigorous. Now, I know this may seem contradictory. How can safety and rigor be connected? But I think if I give a race car analogy, it will help us to see that. Imagine a race car driver, and before she starts out on her race, she puts on her helmet, she puts in the double seat belts, she turns on the fire suppression equipment, she makes sure the airbag is on. Why so much safety equipment? The race car is made safe so that it can go fast. And great teams are the same way too. When we make it safe, we can go fast. When we provide safety, we can expect rigor. Notice also here in this pyramid that the safety is a foundation. You can only build a house as large as the foundation upon which you build it. You can only be as rigorous and effective as a team as the foundation of safety that you first lay. At the base of the pyramid is absence of trust. Without trust on a team, very little progress can be made. Trust matters. Lencioni points out that there are 2 kinds of trust. Predictive trust, which is basically people doing what they say they will do. Predictive trust only comes with time. It says that you and I have worked together so long that we trust each other. If I say this, more than likely you will do that. This kind of trust stems from constant observation, and it's great. But it's not the kind of trust that builds a great team. This kind of trust takes too long to develop. And in today's volatile environment with constant personnel changes, we need a different kind of trust to build teams. And that is vulnerability-based trust, which is basically people being open and honest with each other. Lencioni defines it as the willingness of people on a team to be vulnerable and human with each other. When a coworker says, I don't know the answer to this, or I think I've made a mistake, or I'm sorry for what I said to you yesterday, it was uncalled for. At that moment, you are experiencing vulnerability-based trust. It says to everyone, you can be safe around me. You can handle these, we as leaders, we should always handle these interactions with great respect and care. When you can be completely honest with your colleagues and the team knows that everyone is capable of this, incredible things happen. And yes, I know trusting someone in a vulnerable way is much easier said than done. However, if we don't extend trust and we don't have trust as a team, here's the symptom: no openness towards one another and no vulnerability. A foundation of trust allows us to move to the next stage of this model. And if this is the first time for you to learn this model, you may feel a bit uncomfortable about where this model is going. The second dysfunction is the fear of conflict. Well, wait a minute now. Did you say the fear of conflict? I thought conflict would be the dysfunction. No, it's the fear of conflict that is the actual dysfunction. Conflict is something that's considered dangerous on a team because it can lead to broken relationships. However, if the team has relational trust, members feel secure enough to be honest and courageous with their feedback. And just keep in mind, there's two kinds of conflict: interpersonal conflict, which is often hurtful, and there's ideological conflict, conflict around ideas, not about people, but about ideas, which can be very fruitful when done well. If trust is truly in place, conflict becomes constructive. In fact, conflict is critical to ensuring that all points of view and aspects of issues have been fully discussed, understood, and taken into account before the decision is made. Teams without conflict tend to shut out valuable feedback, which can lead to poor decision-making. So good leaders encourage conflict. In fact, they insist on it. If you notice someone who is refusing to engage in ideological conflict, a good leader will pull them aside and encourage them to share more and to enter into conflict. Healthy conflict helps people see different perspectives and ideas. It gives greater engagement and collaboration. It leads to clarity, which helps us also to reassess issues. And in the end, it can actually strengthen our relationships, not hurt them. Learning to create conflict is a valuable skill. And so I'd encourage you to try this phrase on for size. You hear this all the time, and I encourage you to add this to your vernacular. Would it be okay for me to push back on this? When someone's sharing an idea, try that one. Would you mind if I push back on this a little bit? Would it be okay if I push back on this a little bit? You gain permission, and then you can share a different opinion. As leaders, it's important for us to recognize the role we play in creating a culture where our teammates feel comfortable enough to engage in conflict, especially as they're giving a diverse point of view. Now, the symptom of the fear of conflict is superficial harmony. People want to so maintain a harmony between each other that they avoid talking about difficult things. And so we only have superficial harmony. And so I think true harmony is deeper than ideological conflict. It really goes to the layer below this of really trusting one another. Now, if we have good ideological conflict, this can lead to the next stage, and that is commitment. So they often say the phrase weigh in leads to buy-in. If during the conflict stage, people are not willing to weigh in with their opinion, it's not likely that they would be willing or that they would actually buy into the decision. Having conflict leads to making a good commitment as a team. Now, as you have conflict, many different ideas are going to emerge for problems. With trust and appropriate conflict, the best ideas emerge and the team chooses the idea that they will pursue. Even though only one idea is usually chosen, each member should understand why that idea was selected and to support that idea, both inside the team and sometimes even more importantly, when communicating externally. Gaining commitment from team members is not the same thing as getting consensus. Consensus usually means a compromise somewhere, and often compromise does not yield the best result. Intel had this saying about this whole thing of conflict and commitment. Intel, the chip manufacturer, they said, disagree and then commit. During discussions, bring all of your opinions to the table. Disagree really strongly, but when the decision's made, we all commit to the team decision. So when it comes to making a commitment, the idea is it's time to take action, and it's time to do this as a team. The sign of an unhealthy team is later when a problem arises, someone will say, well, I knew it would fail. I told them so. This wasn't my idea. And so you see that that person is actually not committed to what the team decides. Rather, coming out of the team meetings, everyone should be shoulder to shoulder. And if someone were to ask any team member about the decision, they would sense the same level of commitment, regardless of whose idea it was. And if team members commit to decisions together, they can move higher in this model. The next dysfunction of a team is the avoidance of accountability. Accountability is typically the most difficult behavior for any team to master. Most will never get to the point where each team member routinely holds all the other members accountable. Reaching and maintaining progress in the previous stages will make accountability much easier, though. The result of the avoidance of accountability is low standards. When we make decisions, we commit, but we don't follow through and we don't hold each other accountable, standards begin to slide. Teams that commit to decisions and standards of performance don't hesitate to hold one another accountable for adhering to those decisions and standards. What's more, they don't rely upon the team leader as the primary source of accountability. Rather, healthy teams, they go directly to one another's peers. In a meeting or after a meeting, someone may say, what happened? I thought we committed to do plan X. What happened, George? I thought you said you were going to call Pastor Ueda and set up a meeting. That's a sign of a healthy team when members begin to hold each other accountable. I've experienced this many times in our organization. I was in a leader development program, and one of the leaders, Lindy Black, I had not turned in some of my assignments on time. And initially, one of the administrative assistants asked me where my assignment was, and I kind of ghosted that person. And then I got a call from Lindy, and she at the time was the associate president of our organization. And she wrote me a letter, and she said, "Mark, what's your plan to get that assignment into me? What's your plan to catch up?" And how did that make me feel? It made me feel a little bit of guilt to have a leader call me out on my lack of accountability. But after I got over that, I realized Lindy was treating me like the adult that I claimed to be. She was treating me like a professional. She raised my self-expectations. Accountability does that. For the rest of that program, I was super motivated to complete my assignments and make the most of this opportunity. We need to hold people accountable. Why? Because results are important. And that leads us to the last stage, an inattention to results. Achieving team objectives is why the team exists. If each prior stage is functioning well, each member of the team is focused on achieving the team's goal. The team goal becomes more important than any individual personal goal, and everyone will feel rewarded by the team achieving its goal together. In Lencioni's book, he tells the story of the Chicago Bulls. In May 13th, 1994, Scottie Pippen, this is the season after Michael Jordan retired from the Bulls, Scottie Pippen was now the best player, and they were in a playoff game with the New York Knicks. With 1.8 seconds left in the game, the score was tied. And the coach designed a play for Scottie Pippen to pass the ball in to Kukoc, who was a European shooter. And Pippen was to pass to him, and he was going to shoot the three-pointer. And Scottie Pippen, who at the time was now the best player on the team, he said, no. If I don't get the ball, if I don't get to make the last shot, I'm not playing. I'm the best player. If I don't get the ball, I'm not going on the court. And so the coach said, fine. Okay, this other player, you're going in for Pippen. Pippen sat down on the bench for that last play of the game. What happened? Well, the ball was inbounded to Kukoc. He made the shot, three-point shot, and the team won the game. But looking at Scottie Pippen, what happened? It seems like he cared more about his status as the best player and his ego than the team's scoreboard and the team win. And so inattention to result leads to status and ego instead of team results. Results are important, but not for individuals. It's important for the team win. So in summary, we need to focus on results. The only way to do that is to hold people accountable out of love. The only way to do that is make sure that they are committed. The only way to get that commitment is if they passionately have healthy conflict. And the only way to do that is if they had trust. Which of these is your personal challenge? How about the teams that you lead, the teams that you take a part of? The last point is I don't really like the negative aspect of this framework. So I'm going to kind of cancel the dysfunctions of the team and just lastly, organize some of the thoughts around the 5 behaviors of an effective team. Abundant trust, which leads to openness and vulnerability. Healthy ideological conflict, which leads to open, candor dialogue and better decisions. Courageous commitment, which leads to clear and decisive action. Mutual accountability, which leads to excellence. And this enables attention to team results, which results in esprit de corps, the common spirit in the members of a group of devotion and strong regard for the honor of the group. And so just lastly, try chasing cats at random. If you have a hard time remembering this framework, just remember that phrase. Try chasing cats at random. Try, trust, chasing, conflict, cats, commitment, at, accountability, results. Trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, and results. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes to review this framework, and we hope now you know how to improve any team that you're a part of. Thanks very much.